Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Gordon Chesterman, Careers Tutor and Fellow at St Edmunds College, and I'd like to introduce this session we have this evening on making your point online. Virtual interviews are nothing new. We've had telephone interviews for many years, but now with Skype, they were mainly one-to-one occasions. And in fact, Catherine owes her presence at St Edmunds after a Skype interview. So they're not new. But now online communications are the only way of communicating effectively. And they're no longer one-on-one events, they're to large audiences, often to panels. And they're rarely two equals having a conversation. They're used for interviews, for presenting research, attending an employer recruitment presentation. And they're often very competitive events. There's something to be won or something to be lost. And you're in a position where you have to impress and be remembered for all the right reasons, talking over a computer like I am to you now. Or it could be a situation where you need to network, to make connections virtually on a Zoom event with many people there attending in their little postage stamp size screens. And unfortunately, unlike physical conferences around the world or in the UK, there is no opportunity to bump into people whilst waiting for an elevator or standing in a queue for coffee. So how do you actually get known to other people virtually and online? Well, I'm pleased to welcome this evening Gwyn, an alumnus of St Edmunds College and a professional careers coach and trainer after a long and successful career in finance. And he'll be talking to us for 40 minutes or so about the opportunities to make your point successfully online. Please remember to use the Q&A button down at the bottom of the screen to submit your questions. And at the end of 35, 40 minutes or so, we'll have an opportunity for a question and answer session with Gwyn. So I'll pass you over to Gwyn now.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm Gwyn, G-W-Y-N. Just think about winning, that'll do it. Thank you, Gordon, and thank you, Kerry, for organising this and facilitating. I'm going to cover as much as I can with regards to what takes place in these online sessions, whether it's for interviews, panels, assessment centres, side room events, presenting research, etc. There will be bits that are good for everybody. There will be bits that that'll only be good for one or two of you. But either way or any way, please, if you listen closely, there's a lot of information that you can take away. I deal with people around the world who are going for banking, law, consultancy jobs, people who are going for, shall we say, assistant professorships, people who are going for, the list goes on and on. The opportunities to present yourself well are psychological, they're about preparation, they're about deep domain knowledge, and let's see where we go. Those of you that are going for positions, assistant professorships, or positions in universities around the world, or anything where personal character counts and they're looking for certain competencies, what you need to do is prepare your competency grid. Don't worry, I'll come on to the verbal and the non-verbal later, but first of all, you need to prepare your competency grid. The competency grid has 6 columns, and it's something that you need to have memorized. It's something that, which I'll explain in a moment, and it's something that you need to have rehearsed by videoing yourself many times. Again, I'll come to that in just a second. Okay, so the competency grid. This is any, and first of all, column 1 is any and every activity that you've been involved with from the age of 16, or for many of you now from the age of 18. So it's volunteering, it's helping Gordon out with clubs or societies or events. It's about work experience that you've had. It's anything that you've been involved with from the age of 16. So that's your list in column 1. Column 2 is which 2 of the particular competencies that you've been involved with, that you have developed through these particular activities, shine through best in that particular story. So many of you will already know whether in your interviews in the first round, HireView or any of the other organizations that run these online interviews, almost certainly they will ask you 2 or 3 competency-based questions, and you need to know this stuff inside out. So the typical competency questions, the core ones that will be covered, and I apologize if I'm going quickly, but this is being recorded. You'll be able to check it back at a later date. So communication skills, which is divided into 3 parts. That will be the best negotiation that you've ever done. It will be conveying complex information in a simple way. This is critically important, by the way, for all of you. And then thirdly, it'll be dealing with difficult people, either individually or in a group. Then we've got, when have you demonstrated entrepreneurship? When have you demonstrated integrity? When have you gone the extra mile for a client? Now, client could be a member of a club, a society, a member of the college. It could be part of a volunteer group that you're involved with. But when have you gone the extra mile for a client? When have you demonstrated cross-cultural awareness? St. Edmunds, not a problem on this. You're fully familiar with working with people and dealing with people from different cross-cultural backgrounds. But what we're after is the specific story, the specific instance, and that you're able to know this inside out so that you can talk pretty much the way I'm talking now, because I know this stuff inside out, off the cuff. Okay, so then we've got things like resilience. Then we've got stuff like adaptability. Then you've got your usual leadership. So that's column 2. Out of those exemplars, out of those examples I've just given you, how do they tie in to the particular story, to the particular instance? Columns 3, 4, and 5 are very simple. They're the context. What's the background to the story? What's the action? What is it that you actually did? And then what's the result? What did you achieve? Many of you will have got this from people, from Gordon, and from people working in personal development in HR. Sometimes it's called the STAR model. Other times it's the CAR model with an extra T at the end. The T responds to the takeaway. What have you learned from that? This grid, I cannot emphasize to you enough that for your online video interviews, by the way, some organizations will give you 30 seconds to think, 60 seconds to answer. The majority will give you 30 seconds to think, 90 seconds to answer, which is kind of nice. It gives you an opportunity to break it down. Some of them give you 30 seconds to think and 2 minutes to answer. 2 minutes can be a long time. When you're preparing and rehearsing your answers, by the way, do not rehearse in parrot fashion. When you write out this grid, Gwyn's grid, what you do is that you do it in bullet point format, so that every time, look, you lot are really smart. You're ridiculously smart. That means that if you've got the bullet points in front of you, you are able to adapt, change, make it up new every time. And that's where we get the impact. We get so many people, so many candidates, so many presentations online where it's just rehearsed and it's like parrot. Shoot the parrot. We do not want the parrot. What we want are people who are, it's okay, you break away, you look away, you come back and you focus on the person that you're talking to, you focus on the camera, because it's real, it's genuine, it's somebody who is engaging and thinking about what it is that they have actually been asked. Okay, context, action, result. With the result, if you can be empirical, that's great. Increased membership of the society by 15%, got a 20% return on investment, did whatever. Those of you that are going for professorships, assistant professorships, academic positions, please be data rich, be as data rich as you possibly can. With regards to this grid and with regards to all of the other aspects that I'm going to cover as we move through this first stage, the amount of time that students and candidates, alumni spend on video interviews is shockingly poor. It is shockingly poor. All right. In terms of, if you think about, all right, you've got to do a 15-minute or a 20-minute interview online, or a half hour or a 45-minute interview, you should be spending somewhere between 12 to 15x. 12 to 15x. I do a lot of work with startup companies that are going for places like Techstars or particularly Y Combinator. We're looking at way over that for something that is just, Y Combinator is a 10-minute interview, and we're putting in hours and hours of preparation. What you need to be doing is filming yourself, video yourself, talking through these particular competencies, and then checking on the type of language that you're using. Language, by the way, forbidden language. Let's just get forbidden language out of the way early on. Things such as, let's go through the list. Also, I also did this, I also did that, also. Shopping list, bin it, get rid of it. Even worse, not only did I do this, but also, it's like, well, why would you do that? You've got a very short time span to speak, and what you're doing is reducing it, and you're going, I did both X and Y. Did I just say I did? You wouldn't say that, because that is subject and then a little verb. No, you're going to use a gerund instead. Going, doing, having. Psychologically, they're much more impactful. They save time, they save energy, but much more important, they're dynamic. And what you're looking to do is to be dynamic in the way in which you present yourself, put yourself across. Some of you will go, Gwyn, I'm not dynamic. Okay, fine. What you're after then is to project gravitas, seriousness. What typically happens, you go online, you go on camera, and you're going to get an adrenaline rush. Hypothalamus kicks into action, drops a shed load of adrenaline, you're going to get some sort of flush going on, and you're going to be speaking faster than you normally do. Me, I can speak faster because I'm okay with this. All right. You will generally slow down, give yourself the gravitas, give yourself the power. Think about it when you watch some of those Hollywood movies, or maybe something even better. What is it about the people who are in charge? What is it about the people who are in power? They're generally quite still, not perfectly still, but they're quite still. Notice what I just did there. I had a little pause, and what that will have done will have broken the rhythm of any of you who have started to nod off, because the moment that somebody takes a pause, it pulls you out of the state, the mental state that you're in, and gets them to re-engage. So for all of you, when you're making your point, those of you that are doing longer presentations, those of you that particularly are presenting research, it's really useful to consider pausing as you transition from one point to another, or just throwing in a pause in order to pull people back, because what they do is they flip inside their head, they have a little bit of internal chatter going on, and you're looking to break that flow, which will happen. We now need to move on to your understanding of the organization that you're applying to, the organization that you want to be working with, and the preparation of the briefing sheet. The briefing sheet has many different formats depending upon the role that you're after and the organization that you're after. I'll start with companies, because it's companies that I do 70% of my work with. So on your briefing sheet, you need to have core information, 2/3 to 3/4 of a page of core information that you will have gathered from all and any media. Most people who fail in online videos and online events have not done the amount of research that they're supposed to. I'm assuming, I'm giving it as a default, that you have signed up for all webinars that any particular organization that you're applying to has already put on or is putting on. I'm taking it as a given that you have LinkedIn Premium, that you are going to be reaching out to people from Cambridge, from the college, from your previous schools, people of the same nationality as you, people with the same interests as you, and you're going to be reaching out to them. And why are you doing that? So that you can name drop them in your Zoom, in your Skype call, and you can name the positioning and what they were doing and the information that they were giving you. We'll come to the information sheet in a minute, okay? The actual details of your briefing sheet. LinkedIn Premium is extremely useful, but much more important than the actual account is your mindset. The one thing about Cambridge and that differentiates it is that, well, that's not true. It's not the one thing. There are many things. But the one thing that in this instance is important is that people are reluctant to make the first move and people are reluctant to go, I can talk to anybody. I can reach out and make that connection with anybody at whatever level they are in any given company. It's generally true for students, it's generally true for young people, but it's particularly so, in my experience, for Cambridge. And this is something that can make a huge difference for you. You are incredibly smart. You are also holistic thinkers. You are people who engage with others and actually reflect on what it is that other people say. You're great, okay? You're really great. And this means that when you choose, if you choose to reach out, that when others have a conversation with you, they love you. But most of you say, oh no, oh, people will turn me down, people will, why would they talk to me, etc. Couple of reasons. People will talk to you because they think back to when they were at your stage, when they were at your level, and they think, wow, this person is gutsy, this person is making a real and genuine effort to learn more, to find out more, and they've contacted me. Yes, you're going to get a lot of rejections, but that's not the problem. It's about the success rate. You're going to get a certain number of people who will go, yes, I'll give them 10 minutes of my time, I'll give them 15 minutes of my time. You're also going to get certain people who go, no, I can't, I haven't got the space to talk to you personally. However, there are a couple of other people I'm going to hook you up with, and you're going to have that conversation. Sorry, wrong phrase, hook you up, but you know what I mean. Or they'll say, I'll answer a couple of your questions, some of your written questions. And again, you are data mining. You're gathering information about the organization that you're looking to either work for or the organization that you're looking to be engaged with. When you do the briefing sheet, yes, you need to know, if it's a business, you need to read the annual report. You read the executive summary. Where are they expanding? Where are they increasing their presence? Where are they contracting? What's going on with the profitability? What's the actual corporate social responsibility initiatives? How are they doing on diversity and inclusion? Who are they partnering with? Who are their main competitors? I don't know. You just get all of these different information steps. What are their core values? What is it they're looking for people within particular roles? What are they looking for people overall within the firm culture? In the online interviews, in the online workshops, in the online webinars, what you're looking to do is preface your questions or your comments with deep detail that you have researched. I saw that you're expanding in Peru, the new office in Lima, and the partnership that you set up with ABC. This is of interest to me because I'm a Spanish speaker and I'm interested in this particular segment, blah, 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 blah. What you've done is you've shown that you're somebody who's genuinely interested in the company. You've identified, or the organization, you've identified how this reflects back on you, and you're able to ask a decent question. The knowledge of the participants, the knowledge of the partners, the professors, have you done your research on them? Have you found out where they studied? Have you found out their particular areas of interest? Have you found out what their hobbies are? By the way, be very interested in other people. So with the forbidden language list, you do not use things such as, I was lucky enough to, I was fortunate enough to. You do not say, you just say what you did. You don't say I was able to, you just say what you did. You don't say I had to, you just say what you did. You get to the point. Most people on video, for some reason, are woolly, fluffy, generic. They do not get to the point. And this is, oh, by the way, nothing connected to fire. Oh yes, this ignited my interest. It ignited your interest. It fueled your desire. No. All right. So Get rid of random fluffy language, get to the point, think about the structure of what it is that you're going to say, and demonstrate the deep research that you've done on the organizations. Okay, where do we go from here? The idea of your research into this particular organization also includes what research they're doing, what recent news and developments are out there about them. Have you checked recent interviews that the CEO has given online? Have you gone through all of the social media? And I mean all of the social media. Are you checking them out on Instagram? Are you checking them out on Facebook? Are you checking them out on LinkedIn? Are you seeing what's being posted in the relevant blogs? Are you seeing what's being posted on the more subject-specific, topic-specific forums? You, in your own areas, whether it's for jobs or whether it's for its areas of academic interest, you are absolute specialists in your area. You know who the thought leaders are. You know what the forums are where these people speak and comment. You know the big conferences that take place each year. And you should be looking at those and extracting information, and you should be data mining. We'll come on to the execution of it in a moment, but this is the preliminary research that needs to take place prior to you ever going online, prior to you ever being in that particular space. Kerry, who's facilitating this, told me earlier that there was too much light in my face. And that's fine, because I was thinking about, I just finished another call to, or a significant call to India prior to this session. And I just sat in my normal position. I hadn't actually checked the lighting. Kerry gave me the right feedback and said, no, let's try it like this, let's try it like that. And then the light comes out better. Hopefully you can see me, and I'm coming across well. How much have you actually checked and filmed the way that you look prior to doing any of your rehearsals? The look is also, clearly I've got white behind me. Okay, I'm not looking for a job, so I'm wearing my ski top, because as I was telling Gordon earlier and Kerry, it's minus 15 degrees out on the balcony here in Switzerland. But that's my chosen look. Have you actually researched the look for the men or women of the organization that you're applying to? The color of the shirts, the color of the ties for the guys, the position of the hair, jewelry, no jewelry, glasses, no glasses, whatever. All of these are factors that work in your favor. What are the preferred colors? You can't see it here because I've chosen to keep my shoulders out of the screenshot. I do have a tendency to hunch when it's a particularly big event, and I know that I'm going to be, it's more formal. But I will change my position based upon the formality of the situation. Gordon has put me very much at ease and very much told me about what it is that you're all looking for. So I'm treating it on that particular context. In that particular context, you know how formal or informal the Zoom chats and the Zoom interviews and the Zoom final round interviews will be, and therefore you need to think about that. But you also need to video yourself as you're rehearsing the answers. Notice people are unfamiliar with the verbal tics that they have. It used to be, one of my favorite words was basically this, basically that. And the occurrence rate was terrible. It was pointed out to me, I changed it. You are probably not aware of the language patterns that you use. You can do it with friends, and I do strongly suggest that you use the resources at the college, and you use your friends and people applying for something similar. You have practices, and it's not the same as you actually videoing yourself, giving answers to specific questions. Note, and this is something you lot, again, are really, really smart. And you go, hey, Gwyn, I've got all of the questions sorted. I know what the information that I want to present, and I've run it through 20 times, 30 times. Yeah, you've run it through in your head. It's very different running it through in your head and actually verbalizing it. And it's very different verbalizing it and verbalizing it when the camera is running. Therefore, use the amount of time. Use the 12 to 15x on the time that you're forecasting you'll actually have to speak for. So go through it in detail. Listen for what you're saying, how you're saying it. For some reason, people have a tendency to panic, and then they begin to separate their words out. They don't use elision. They don't use contractions. They do not use contractions. They do not use elision, all right? And it becomes very staccato. That is not what we want. We need you to slow down, have the gravitas, good one. Slow down, have the gravitas, have the elision, so that the whole story, the whole narrative flows. Quick word to those of you, for example, going to academia. I've got a couple of guys, Brits who are, including, one from Cambridge, one from Oxford at the moment, who are out in the US, one at Duke's, one at Stanford, going for various random positions around the world. Spent a considerable amount of time working with them. And the biggest issue I had is that they were being very linear in their presentation of information. Many of you know that McKinsey Consulting, one of the world's best companies, top talent, people like you, and linearity doesn't come into it. You're not going to do the background, the examples, and the conclusion. A while back, I was, how weird is this? I was working with the world's largest maker of ball bearings, okay? Privately held company in Germany, world's largest maker of ball bearings. Why did they call me in? Why did the top team call me in? Because they weren't landing the contracts that they wanted. What was the problem? We started our business in 1887, and then we did this, and it's like, geez, okay, who are your clients? That'll be Ford. What's Ford's focus? Sorry. Future oriented. Okay. What we're after now is for you to give McKinsey way, which is the headlights. What are the actual headlights of the research you've done? What are the headlights of your findings? What are the key points that you want to be putting out there? Then you drop into the choices that you made initially, and then you go into the results and the what came out of it. People these days, and it's increasing, I'm seeing it week after week, month after month, the people who are hiring, the people who are employing, the people who are appointing, time is money. They want you to get to the point. Yes, the depth and the detail. By the way, those of you that follow the FAB model, the FAB, the features, the advantages and the benefits of whatever process solution that you're talking about. Most people spend too much time online talking about the features of their particular solution, their product, their service, rather than talking more about the advantages of this compared to the competitors, compared to the actual benefits of this to the person who's going to be employing you, using what it is that you've discovered, using what it is that you found out. We need much more time on the benefits, a little bit less on the advantages, and a lot less time talking about the features. Eye contact. You'll notice that it's natural that as you think, as you talk about different topics, your eyes will move around in different areas, looking up for memory, looking down for self-talking head, etc., etc. That's fine. That's just the hard wiring in the brain. Your mantra in online sessions is pause, 1 heartbeat or 2 heartbeats. At least show the people that you're thinking. You might not be thinking. You can be singing a song. I don't care. But at least pretend to be thinking. You pause. 1 heartbeat, 2 heartbeats. Pause. Think, sort out. You lot crazy smart. Your brains will work incredibly quickly. They will organize the material. Then you make the eye contact, and I'll come to panels in a moment. Then you make the eye contact with the person that's asked the question, and then you talk. And you will have segmented it into points. Ideally, you're going to make 2 or 3 points. Those of you that have got multiple segments of information that you need to deliver, then you will be segmenting each point into 2 or 3 sub-points, all right? It needs to be crystal clear. please, please, please do not do this thing of, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what I've told you. It is so 20th century. It's tragic. All right. Just get to the heart of the matter. Get to the headlines, headlights, break it down, give them something interesting, give them some hooks, magic words, for example, always use for examples, move on to the next section. I mentioned before about the pausing. Yeah, you remember that, that's good. Okay, so I told you about the pausing. As you transition from segment to segment of what it is that you want to say, then you're going to do that pause and you're going to segue in. You're just going to segue in, and secondly, thirdly, yada, 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 move on. Make sure that you're signposting. You all know this, it's not a problem. It's just a question of you remembering in the moment. How do you remember in the moment? You remember by putting in the 12 to 15 hours of videoing yourself and talking to Gordon, talking to the team, and talking to your friends. It's all about mental muscle memory and repeating it. Okay, it works. It really, really does work. Okay, briefly on to group exercises. I know that a lot of students struggle with the with group exercises. I'll come to network in a minute, so I forgot about that. I'll come back to it in a second. A lot of students struggle with group exercises. So you're put into a group of 6 or 8 people, and you're given a case study, or you're given a scenario, and you have to interact with the other people, and you have to impress the human resources, or you have to impress the observers that you are the right fit. Okay, so at the beginning of the exercise, you're given a scenario and you have to discuss it as a group for 40 minutes. What's likely to happen? What's likely to happen is that some uber alpha will jump in and go, right guys, what we need to do is this, this and this, which is fine. Let them speak for about 5 seconds, and then you interrupt them and say, excuse me, can we just introduce ourselves around? Excuse me, can we just check that everybody is clear on what it is that we're doing? You're thinking about the group, not the individual world dominating position. Then you might want to introduce the idea of, so we've got 40 minutes to do this. We should have a timeline. Let's have an agenda. Should we have an agenda, everybody? Because you're asking the group, because you're somebody who's thinking about the group. By the way, if you already know the people's line, please do not use their names all the time. Right, Gwyn, well, Gwyn, what we think, okay, next, no, it just becomes irritating and pandering, okay? So you use their names once or twice just to demonstrate that you actually know their names, and then you concentrate on the content and what the action is that you're actually looking to do. So you create an agenda, you have a bit of a timeline. Really important points. Somebody makes a point, somebody puts forward a suggestion that you think is reasonable. You then say, that's great, and then you build on what it is they've said. So you're demonstrating that you're collaborative. You've demonstrated that you're prepared to build and work together and add, etc., etc., etc. It's unlikely in the circles that you will all be moving, because you'll be moving in the circles of highly ambitious and talented people, because that's what you're like. And there may well be 1 or 2 people who are a little bit reluctant to speak, or who are being quiet or being pushed out. You make sure that you draw them in to the conversation, or at the very least that you are seen to be prepared to draw them in. Okay, Michael, what are your thoughts on this? Daniela, how do you see this? Are you in agreement? What are your thoughts? So you're looking to bring in the quiet people, or the people who've been pushed out. Where we've got multiple people on screen, you making sure that you're making eye contact as much as possible. As specialists know that when you're dealing with this one-to-one in person, whether sitting 2 meters apart or less, it's impossible. If you look at somebody's third eye or the end of their nose, there's a triangulation pattern that exists, and it's physically impossible to tell where it is that somebody's looking. So you never have to look somebody directly in the eye, because you can look there instead and they'll never know. It's basic laws of, I don't know, geometry, physics, whatever else you wanted to think about. And yes, I know some of you will go away and check it. Okay, so the idea is that on the camera, if you've got 16, 8, 24 people, you're just moving your head slightly so that you're demonstrating that you are looking to engage with as many people as possible. By the way, any of you that decide to stick post-it notes on your computer, on your PC, on your laptop, etc., please spread them out across the top of your laptop, not down the bottom, because it looks extremely dodgy when you're looking down. The camera angles play out much better if your post-it notes are across the top. Check it out and see what happens. In the group exercises, please, if you've decided to have an agenda and you as a group have decided that you're going to have 10 minutes on that, 20 minutes on that, when you reach the end of the time period, if the timekeeper, whoever that is, has not said it's the end of the time, you should be the one to mention it, okay? HR love people who pay attention to time and pay attention to agendas. You get massive brownie points. It works really well. Okay. As you reach the end of each section on these group exercises, again, more points if you say, let's just make a note of what we've decided. Because what happens further on down the road in these group exercises towards the end, when there's only 2 minutes left, and you go, oh, we decided A, B, and C, and somebody will go, no, we didn't. We decided, and it's like, hey ho, we made a note of it. We've got it here, what it is that we actually decided. So keeping notes, keeping track of what's gone on. Those of you that are applying for research programs, those of you presenting aspects of research data, those of you applying for academic positions, again, the keeping notes of the comments that are coming in and what you said, little brief notes, little bullet points, the more that you can refer back and loop it back to what has been said previously, the better it is. It's that they see you as being in control, keeping a running track of all of the core points. Basically, they're seeing you as a quarterback, as a safe pair of hands of somebody who has gravitas. That was just a different manifestation of that. Okay, if you're given the option in a group exercise for recruitment, they will often say, oh, you have to choose between these 4 options. If there are 6 of you in a group, I strongly recommend that you say, hey, let's make a matrix. All right, let's make a grid. I'm a big fan of grids, but let's make a grid. So if there are 6 of you in the group and there are 4 options, each of the 6 will say, I'm going to give 4 points to this choice, 3 points to this choice, 2 to this, 1 to this. And then you get a much more nuanced decision matrix. Again, the people who are listening go, this is a process person. This is somebody who thinks about the best way to get a solution. Works really well. When you're in an online position on a group, you will actually know a lot about the topic at hand, especially you lot, because you're holistic and you cover a lot of bases. You know a lot about a lot of stuff. Be very careful. If the group disagrees with you, then go along with the group. Make your point. Be clear about what your view is. The group votes against you. Let it go. Just let it go. All right. Even if you know 100% that you are right, just let it go and then be seen to build on what the other people in the group say. So you show that you're not being vindictive, you're not bearing a grudge, but that you are deeply collaborative. Massively important. Okay. Many of you are deep experts in your field. Standard. How much do you actually know about what's going on in the world in terms of commercial awareness, in terms of geopolitics, in terms of developments that are taking place for the organizations that you are engaging with or looking to be employed with? These are standard questions on online interviews, the robot ones, or on, a typical robot interview is going to be, walk us through your CV or tell us a bit about yourself, question 1. Question 2 and 3, 2, 3, and 4 will be competency questions. Question 5 will be why us and why this role. Next one will be, tell us about a commercial story, a business story, or a story related to this sector and why it interests you. And then the last bit will be, please give us your feedback on what you think about this interview. By the way, when they ask you to give us feedback on this interview, please make sure that you tell them, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. The range of questions were really fair. That means that all of us who are applying will have a fair chance. And I thought that it gave me the opportunity to show myself to the best of my ability. Okay. By the way, if you happen to have a mind block in the middle of any of the questions that they ask you on these interviews, the pre-recorded ones, not the live ones, but on the pre-recorded ones, it's absolutely fine. All right. Not a problem. So they say, tell us about a time when. You start giving your story from your competency grid that I mentioned at the beginning. And then what you do is you go, oh, I've lost it. Oh, sorry. You take a deep breath. You focus, you sort yourself out, and then you carry on and you continue. Several of my clients will do this anyway for every video interview they're doing, just so that they can show that they can lose the plot, but still recover and finish what they're supposed to. Up to you, up to you. But the idea is that there is no problem with people making mistakes. The only problem is if you don't have the courage, guts, determination, speed of thought to actually finish what it is that you were saying. Very important, whether it's in a recorded interview or whether it's a live interview or whether it's a webinar, that you've got questions to hand for them. The questions should be along the lines of that you're looking to get the other person to share their particular experiences, and you're also data mining for hints or tips that will help you in the future. So, for example, it would be, okay, of the trainees that you've had in the last 3 years, who stood out, what did they do that was different, and why was that particularly impactful for you? You're getting that information that you can use in the future. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gwyn. That was riveting. Do remember, listeners, that it has been video recorded, so you can listen to those points again. And also, just before we get on to the questions, a quick plug for the University Careers Service. Do log into their website. Gwyn, I'm just changing my post-it notes from the bottom of my screen to the top of my screen. So, but yeah, do check the University's Careers Service website, where you'll find some useful guidelines on networking, both online and offline, in person. Interview questions, the typical sorts of interview questions you're going to get. And with those, I suggest that you, if you have got an interview coming up in the near future, share those interview questions with a good friend of yours and actually do a Zoom together, practice it. And that'll make you more comfortable with the technology, also the sorts of questions that come up, and it could be a useful learning point for you. There's also a facility on the Careers Service website for practice interviews as well, whereby you can just practice your interviewing skills and video them, and they get recorded back to you. So do make good use of that. And as I said, go back to the video of this particular session, and you can revisit the points that Gwyn was making about the preparation and research you've got to do into the organization, that competency grid of looking and listing the things that the employer is looking for and matching that with evidence from your CV to show that you've got those necessary skills. And those necessary skills need not come from your degree, studies itself. It could be your extracurricular activities. It could be any vacation jobs that you've had. And certainly when I was interviewing at the Price Waterhouse as their recruitment manager, we had one student who worked in a supermarket, and we were able to get a lot of very, very valuable transferable skills from that Saturday job that they did as a school leaver. That was relevant to working in a professional financial services firm. So please dip into all areas to get that necessary evidence that the employer is looking for. Transferable skills, as I said, you can get them from your extra activities and from the methods, the ways that you're actually taught here at Cambridge, the supervisions, your on your own in a room with a leading academic being grilled about your topic. So you're very good at getting your point across clearly, succinctly, and being challenged on that. So please just cast your mind back to the education here at Cambridge and how that can help you through the interviews as well. So we got some questions in, Gwyn, I'd be pleased to hear. So from Nicole, was interested to learn about Zoom meetings. They're often sitting down and just creating a little bit of variety over a computer screen that's missing in a physical meeting. The modulation of the voice, just creating interest, if you like, with the person who could be 2,000 miles away on the other end of a computer line. How do you create that variety and interest?
Okay, first up, Gordon, before I come to Nicole, you triggered a couple of points that I just want to mention briefly that I didn't cover in the session. Number one was with regards to networking. Please, everybody, one of the first things I do with people I work with is build out somebody's own personal network. So you need to draw up the list of everybody that you've known since the age of 16. This can be in all of the social groupings, whether the clubs, societies, the volunteer and the work experience through college, etc. But then what you do is you do not just tap these people. You ask each of them for 2 people that they know who they think will be most useful. So we go an extra degree with regards to the network. With regards, as Gordon just said, with regards to the CV, special tip, please, keep one thing of interest that you do not put on your CV. Leave it off. Almost always, somewhere during a recruiting process, they will ask you, could you tell us something interesting that is not on your CV? So you keep something special up your sleeve. So Nicole, you're talking about the idea of variety. Gordon pretty much said it. A lot of it has to do with the modulation in the voice. You will have heard me going up, down, pausing, stopping, going more slowly, picking up the speed, etc. This is exactly one of the things that they're looking for. Also, with regards to the gestures, see, Gordon was doing it automatically, so we've got the little head nods going on. So at the appropriate moment, we got movement of the hands coming in, etc. All of these are the micro movements that come into play. This is why it's critically important that you do the filming and the videoing practice, because some people get very uptight and overly still, and you get the muscle. People, please breathe, relax, drop the tension from the shoulders. Those of you, and many of you are sports people or involved in music or drama, etc. Think about the way that you are when you're about to do that tennis serve. Think about the way that you are when you're about to start that first note in a concert. You are concentrated, you're focused, but you've dropped the tension from the body, because if you've got too much tension, it's all going to go horribly wrong. Apologies in advance for religious sensibilities here, but a lot of the people that I work with will often take a glass of champagne or something else about 15 to 20 minutes before, and that can help with nerves. Oh, but Gwyn, I'm going to flush. Not really, because that's what happens when you've got nerves anyway. Whatever it is that works for you. If you're somebody who does meditation, the mental rehearsals are massively important. Many of you are top sports people. I know this from the past. Many of you are superb sports people. What is it that the coaches tell you? They tell you to do the mental run through. See and hear yourself in the interview. See and hear yourself presenting this information. And what happens is that the mind and the body get used to this, and the amount of adrenaline that is dropped into your body is it's physically less. Medics go and check it, but it's correct. Okay, all the tests have been done on this. So Nicole, the way in which you convey energy, enthusiasm, is by using different words, by using synonyms, by being structured, by engaging with the person directly through the eye contact, by looking at the different people in the panel. By the way, if you've got a panel interview, as many of you will have in the future, you look at the person who's asked the question. So that's where your main focus is. Then depending upon how many other people there are in the panel, you flick left, flick right, or flick around the screen, since we're on Zoom, and they will be able to pick that up. It might be subliminal, but they will pick it up. And that's how you do the engagement. Okay, back to you, Gordon.
Okay, thanks very much. We've got one question in, I probably won't give their name, but they've clearly been suffering a few rejections from various employers. When do you give up making applications?
That
This
is a
particular role is for
fine
a
question. That is a fine question. Okay.
So
The question
this
is,
person is looking for yeah,
sorry, Gordon.
sorry, they're looking for internships in quants, finance, data science, machine learning, that sort of area, postgraduate level. When do you
fine.
apply?
So first, great question. The first thing is, how many applications have you sent off? There's a lot of advice out there that send off fewer applications, but make them really high quality. That can be a bit of a hiccup because there are many stages at which you can fall, many stages at which you can get a rejection. This is very much a numbers game, certainly within quant, but within all finance areas, it's a numbers game. Most of my people will send off between 30 to 40 applications. Clearly, there are going to be maybe 7 or 8 firms who are your main targets, but you'd be happy to go one of the others because you've got the position you can change after 2 years. It's not a problem. What is important is for you to assess the feedback. What are and I'm not talking about the literal feedback that you get from firms because most of them won't bother to give you that anyway, so some will. What you're after is what stage are you failing at? Are you getting through to the online test? So you submit your CV, you submit your cover letter, and you give the pros answers. Are you getting through to the online tests? Cool. If you get through the online tests and you're smashing those, fantastic. Are you failing at the online interview stage? If you get through the online interview stage, what is it about the case studies, or what is it about the assessment centers that are causing problems? We need to analyze which stage are you failing, what are the particular problems. A lot of that, you've got Gordon, you've got the careers team, you've got the university, you can get a lot of feedback that you can talk it through and see what it was that happened. I strongly suggest that you take screenshots and or make recordings of the interviews and of the sessions that you do online with the companies, okay? Because you then replay it back. First of all, there are only a certain number of providers of these tests, whether it's the online numerical, verbal reasoning, SJ, situational judgment tests. There are only a limited number of providers. Secondly, with regards to the video interviews, again, limited number of providers. Some of the firms do their own specific tests, and that doesn't help you. But generally, the more that you record this stuff, you go back over and you do your own analysis. It's exactly the same as you being in a supervision. You're getting feedback because you're being questioned, you're being tested, you're getting feedback, you go away, you learn from the experience, you come back stronger each time. And this is the key point. If at the end of the day, I would say 30 plus rejections, and when you've been checking what it is that's gone wrong, then you think about, okay, I still want to do this, and I've got a plan B and a plan C, and you're going to start applying for global corporates or other types of organization. Gordon, you got something to add to that? Because it's, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think the point you made is very useful about when were you turned down. If you were turned down at the application CV stage, then clearly it's the CV. But if you are invited in for an interview, then the CV has done its job. It's done it well. It's got you that seat at the interview. And then clearly it's the performance of the interview, which is the fault coming in there. And again, I think, a bit of practice with those interviews could get you through the hurdle, definitely. Okay, we've got a question in from Suzanne, who's asking about tips, please, for answering difficult questions when they try to provoke you or confront you.
Oh, good question.
Bad cop type of interview. What do you do? Do you shout at them or walk out?
I love it. Suzanne, right? Suzanne, thank you so much for that, because I didn't mention the stress interviews, and they're incredibly common, and they're becoming far more common. Stress interviews, for those of you who are not familiar, are when, joy of joys, nothing you can say will be right. You will be forever wrong. And they go, yeah, but what? And they have a complete go at you. The idea here is, how will you respond when clients or people you're working with in the future do that to you in a real life meeting? The idea is that you take a breath. Meditation is good. Meditation is good. Take a breath, drop the body tension, continue to give your point of view, reiterate what you said and the rationale and the logic around it. You will incorporate some of what it is that the person who's interviewing has said to demonstrate that you've actually listened and that you recognize their point. Please avoid the word but, okay? It's not yes, but, because but is a negative, and all of us know how it, how do you feel when somebody says, oh yes, but, yeah, there's a slight rise in the blood pressure. Yes, and, yes, that's a good point. And an alternative way of looking at it, and another thought would be, and, so you're keeping it in the positive. So you're working on that. But the stress interviews, hey, just remember, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and you're out of there. Listen to what they have to say, stay calm, reiterate your points. Super, super good question. Thank you.
Okay, and talking super questions from Suzanne, we have another one from her, which I will have a go at answering this time. And it was looking at when you've got 8 participants in a session, how do you create that good impression without monopolizing it? Well, Suzanne, it's quite easy. Think of a grid here, low participation, high participation, low influence, high influence. If you're in the low participation, low influence box, you're either dead, you're asleep, you're bored, you're not saying anything, you're not creating any impact. Moving over from to high participation, but low influence, you're probably boring, you're not talking around the subject, you're not giving the right answers, you haven't been listening, and people are switching off and paying no attention. If you're up there in the high influence, high participation box, where you're dominating it, you could be bullying other people, you could be speaking over other people, and it won't get you any friends. The best place to be is in the low participation, but high influence. And to achieve that, you listen well. When you say something, it's highly relevant. It's probably pulling the group together, as Gwyn was saying earlier about getting everybody to participate. So a comment along the lines of, we've been discussing this now for 10 minutes and made no progress. Let me just summarize, dum, 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 and then you take control of it. So just think of that grid, high participation, low influence, high influence. You need to be in that low participation, high influence box there. Anything to add to that answer, Gwyn?
Only one thing, yeah, I completely agree with it. The one point I would add to it is that, as Gordon said, if you've got a bully or you've got somebody who's dominating in the group, we love it. We absolutely love it if you've got a bully in the group. Why? Because you can call them out and you can never lose, all right? You can never lose. So somebody's dominating, and what you do is you go, excuse me, I don't think everybody's getting the chance to talk. I think that you're taking up a little bit too much time. What do the rest of you think? So you're putting it out to the rest of the group, and they will either then come in and go, oh, yeah, completely agree. I wanted to, and blah, 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 and they will support you. Or they go, oh, no, it's all right. Oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. And they'll be all timid. And who will have noticed? HR and the observers will have noticed that you are prepared to speak up when you think that something is wrong. And this is integrity. This is being prepared to have a voice, and it's a huge win. It's a massive win. So a bully in your group, and you just smile and go, happy days.
Okay, thanks very much. A question in from Guy. If you're nervous in an interview, is it all right to simply explain that you're nervous?
Okay, so nerves for interviews, couple of tips. First of all, before you actually start the interview, before you go online, it's 336 times 5. 336 times 5. This is used by a lot of top sports people, particularly golfers, penalty takers, whether for football or rugby. You breathe in for 3 seconds, you hold it for 3 seconds, you exhale for 6 seconds, and you repeat it 5 times. And this will calm you down, lower the heart rate, etc. The mental rehearsals that I mentioned previously also work very, very well, but they need to be begun 10, 12, 15 days prior to your actual interview, because the more that you visualize, the more you do it, the better. If you wear a watch or if you don't wear a watch, put a watch on. and put it on any wrist if you don't wear one, put it on the other wrist if you do wear one. It will feel very weird and very strange, and what this will remind you to do is to drop the tension from the body, drop the tension from the shoulders, to breathe, chin up, and engage with the people. The direct answer to your question is there's no need to tell them that you're nervous explicitly, because they already know that. The people these days generally are extremely experienced at running interviews. They will have had training. Why? Because of compliance and regulation, that they have to be fair to everybody, and they need to give everybody a chance, and to give everybody the opportunity to be as good as they can be. Same as for Cambridge, for the interviews, the same for the recruitment. They're looking to give you the chance to show how good you can be and how good you are. And I think Gordon will probably have something to say about this in terms of the interviews that he's done with people at Cambridge, etc., or elsewhere. But the interviewers are not bad people. Generally, the interviewers want to get the best out of you, and they understand that there are nerves, and that's why some of the soft questions come in at the beginning to get you in the mood, to get you a bit more relaxed, before slowly beginning to stretch you to see where your thinking can go, where your understanding of the firm, the requirements, and what you can bring, and particularly these transferable skills that we've both been talking about. Gordon?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think another cause of nerves, the anxiety about being asked something you don't know the answer to. But again, preparation for that, just knowing what the likely questions are going to be. If you're 80% there with those likely questions, then it won't come as a shock. It won't come as a surprise to you. And also remember that the interview is a bit of a game. They are going to be asking you questions to rile you, to raise your blood pressure a little bit. That is part of the game. And as Gwyn was saying earlier, it's just how you react to that accordingly. Okay, we've got a couple more questions for you from Lachlan. Thanks for the great talk, Gwyn. How do you strike a balance between being well prepared and coming across as a parrot?
This is the bullet point, and you know, this is what I said previously, and I completely agree. The best way to think about it is when if you've ever done any acting, you know the lines inside out. But what you're prepared to do is improvise, a bit of improv, when somebody else fluffs their lines, makes a mistake, and you've got to just think on your feet. But because you've got such great domain knowledge, because you know this inside out, then you can make it up. When we're talking about the grid, as I said, it's bullet points. Apologies to any of you who are out there. I don't want to offend anybody, but I have major issues with many of my Asian clients who want to just memorize stuff verbatim, and it's a real struggle for me to go, no, just write a couple of words. You are very smart and you are good enough to be able to make this up on the spot. And too many people want to have this safety net of knowing exactly what they're going to say. You can't do that. Lachlan, you're absolutely correct. One of the interesting points is actually listening to the question. Funnily enough, I think you lot have been taught that enough times now. Actually listen to the question, and the interviewers will always have slight variations on the way they phrase it, where they put the stress on the word stress, etc., which you can use to nuance your answer and to phrase it slightly differently. Bad candidates will answer the question they think they've heard. I think they've heard, yeah. Not the one that they've actually heard, and not the one that was actually asked. The more that you can be external, the more that you can focus on what the interviewer has specifically asked you and how they've asked you, then you're going to have an original answer.
Okay, thank you. We've got another question in now from Ekaterina, who's asking about making a major serious career change, say from academia into business or whatever. And how do you convince the employer that you want to make this change? I mean, my answer to that would be to present the case that you are being pulled into this new career, not being pushed into it. So you do not say, I hate being a postdoc, it's a dead-end job, it's low paid, it's insecure, therefore I want to become an investment banker. You say that you're a wonderful postdoc, you're thoroughly intrigued by the intellectual challenge. However, I've really been pulled into this career in investment banking or turkey farming by this interest in this new career path. What would you say about that, Gwyn, the serious career change from, say, academia into banking, or maybe banking back into academia?
I want proof is what I want. I want proof that in your own time, you have chosen to spend your absolutely precious free time skilling up, finding out about, I don't know, maybe going University of Geneva investment portfolio course on Coursera, if we were talking about asset management, for example, or if you decide to move into law, that you'd have gone and done CS50 or doing the lawyer's toolkit. You would have done something in your free time that shows that you are self-motivated. The specific reading that you've done, the people that you've reached out to, the virtual internships that you've done. I want proof and I want evidence that you're prepared to sacrifice in order to move yourself closer, no matter how little the movement in that particular direction. I want to know that you've gone above and beyond to find out about this new direction, that you are someone who is prepared to take risks. That's what I want. I want proof.
Right. Okay. And that proof will appear on the resume and again during the interview.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got one last question for you from Stephen, who was asking about the amount of time that one has to invest in researching these different employers, these different opportunities.
Yeah.
If Stephen were here in front of me now, I'd be saying to Stephen, look, do remember you're at Cambridge to get a degree, not to get a job. And a lot of the research you do into a specific career area can be applied to the 15 employers in that particular career area, and that information is fresh in each particular interview. But any tips there, Gwyn, on making that balance between putting a lot of time into researching careers, bearing in mind you've also got to study for a degree?
Not just study for a degree, but study for a degree at Cambridge. Workload intense, massive demands upon the individuals. Plus, if they're going to get most of out of the experience, being engaged with other activities, both at college level and at a wider level. So huge demands. Answer to your question: 2 hours per day plus extra at the weekend. I have we touched on, Gordon kindly touched on investment banking because it's one of the areas that I know. And if you ever become an investment banker, you're going to be working 18 to 20 hours a day. Personally, I sleep between 4.5 or 6 hours. I work, sleep an hour and a half cycles, go and come out on top. 2 hours a day plus 3 hours plus at the weekend.
Right. I admire your stamina there. Right. So we've got no more questions unless anyone wants to ping me one over quickly, but I'd like to just take this opportunity again to remind everybody who's enjoyed this session this evening that, do make good use of the University Careers Service. And I'd just be happy to have any emails from you, just commenting on this session. I'm GC214@CAM. Drop me an email. And I hope we can invite you back another day, Gwyn, to talk on some other aspect. For those of you who have been making lots of applications and have no offer in your hand yet, bearing in mind the point about studying for a degree, some good bit of news coming through from over the previous years, and I'm sure it'll happen again this year, is that employers are conscious of the fact that you're here at Cambridge to study for a degree, that you might not be viewing their vacancies regularly. And they tend to come back in June, July, August time. And the Career Service does host an event in the summer, it'll be online this year, for employers who still have vacancies starting this autumn. So it might not be the ideal job, but it's something that gets your foot on the ladder in that chosen career path that you could use for 2-3 years before stepping up and on to the next job. So don't feel you have to keep making 10 or 15 applications every week now until May. you can pause, you can come back and tap into the service later on. And they provide a service for life as well. But I'd like to thank you very much for your time. Are you an hour ahead of us or an hour behind us?
I'm an hour ahead of you, Gordon. I'm an hour ahead.
But on behalf of everybody, please accept this virtual applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody. Take care. Ciao, ciao. Bye.